Back again. As we said, just removing the template now to have a look. It does look good from above. I'll just pop the template off. And then we'll have a look at the cut. And you can see, hopefully, there's a very nice clean line to the face side of the treads. It's done a really nice cut across the cross grain there at the face edge of the nosing. And a really nice clean line down the front edge of the riser board there. If I put my ruler in as a guide for the straight edge, you can see I get a really nice clean line there. And if I do it with the treads as well, I get a really nice clean line along there too. That's terrific. As you can see, we're not at the full 1/3 depth of the pocket yet, but I don't want to go to the trouble of resetting the plunge depth of the router at the moment because I've got 3 of these to do. So the thing to do would be to leave it on that initial first pass depth setting and set the template up again over the next string here and do this one while we're at the same depth setting. So that's what I'll do. We'll do that, come back and have a look, and we'll see how those two have gone, and then we'll show you how to set to full depth and go through and complete the route to the right depth to install the risers and the tread material. Two hands on the router all the time. So back again, just taking off the gear. As you saw, remove the template. Just having a look at how the cutters work to that depth again around the string. If I put my ruler in there, just to indicate the connection point between the top of the tread material and the string, it looks very nice. If I do the same where the riser board's going to go, again, that looks also very nice. So I would continue this to the 3rd step and riser board. And then the template would then be completed, because what I've created now is a beautiful guide for the pilot bearing to now run, the pilot bearing on the router that we showed you before, can now run beautifully around the inside edge of the trenching that we've done with the router, and that pilot bearing would follow that, and I can use the side wall of the pocket that I've cut with the router as a guide for that bearing to get my cutters now down to the finished depth, 1/3 the depth of the string in this case. So that should highlight why, when you're making the template, you really want the template to be beautifully straight around those front 2 edges. That is going to be the guide for the pilot wheel on the initial first pass. And once you remove the template, it's going to be the guide, the reflection or the mirror of what you did on the first pass will be the guide for the second pass That's fantastic. So you might be thinking, okay, well now we need to reset the depth of the router for the final cut, the second pass and the final cut into the tread pocket. And we know if our string is 45 millimeters in thickness, we're saying the depth of the pocket cut doesn't want to be more than 1/3, 15 millimeters. I've marked 15 millimeters on my scrap piece, just like I did when I was setting the depth of the blade for the saw as we were doing the plunge cut. Without turning the router on and with it set at the previous depth, you can see, hopefully you can see, that by running the guide where my line is across the 15 mil with the base tip of the cutters that are going to reflect the bottom of the pocket, it's exactly on 15 mil. How can that be, Andy? You haven't adjusted the router. No, but I initially ran over a piece that was 4.5 millimeters thick with a set to the pilot bearing. Once I've removed that piece, obviously the base plate goes 4.5 millimeters closer to the string material, and that just luckily this time ends up being 15 millimeters that the depth of the cutter was already set at. So I don't have to adjust my router in this case. If I did need to, I'd fire off the quick release switch, it would drop out, I would undo my fast set stop, I would reset it to the depth that I wanted using my gauge. Once I'd done that, do the fast lock again, reset the depth, the locking depth gauge, and away we go. But as I said, with this particular example, it's pretty much already set to that 15 mil. Check. Okay, well hopefully you can see that we're now down to full depth on the first tread pocket housing there with the riser board. I'll continue on with the remaining 3 of those. As you can see, the pilot bearing ran the original first pass. It's done the second pass. It's done it to the 15 millimeters that we needed perfectly. If I drop a bit of demonstration tread material in there, look at that, we've got a beautiful fit to the top of the pocket. We just need to square out the front of the face edge of the tread, or run a router over a coving bit just to get a bit more round on the front of that so it fits our routing beautifully. And the same down the face of the riser. You can see we're going to get a beautiful line down there as well. So that's fantastic. I'll continue with those. We're looking good. We've got a little bit of a wedge pocket at the back that we can fix the risers and treads in when and as we need to. Fantastic.